I call this meeting of the Board of Appeals for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 to begin. And we're supposed to elect chair and vice chair. Do we have to do that?
You do, but you may elect to move it to the next month if you would like for
Okay.
chairman to be here.
Since we're missing half of our board, I would like to move this to next month, if that's all right with everyone else.
Sounds good.
Okay. We have approval of the minutes. Has everybody had the chance to review those?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Motion.
Second? Okay, thank you. We have our public hearing on, I want to get the right one, right?
Yes, 2023.
On, let me get the page, sorry. FI 2023-002. Applicant Nan Wilcox and the Carter Harkling Group.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to let us meet with you. My name is Nan Wilcox. I'm with Carter Harkling Group, and we're a civil engineering firm. We've designed Wendy's for many years, and I have Tim Jacobs with me with First Sun Management. They're the Wendy's franchisee that is interested in bringing Wendy's to your community. You were so kind to meet with us last July and approve a site plan that needed some assistance with distance setbacks to the side and put to the side building, front building setback, and parking along the front. And since you approved that site plan, Wendy's has provided a new building option for the franchisee. So we had to go back to the drawing board because of the new building footprint. So let's talk about the building so it kind of explains why we changed the site layout. As you can see, we've got the color pictures, and the front of the building has a door and it has a window. And so as our consumer has changed, we've become, we have become very comfortable with using DoorDash, Eats, using an app on our phone to pre-order our food. And so what Wendy's has proposed, they have this window on the front elevation that allows the consumer to open that window and actually pick their food that will be on shelves. And I think you probably have seen that at some of your restaurants today. You can order and they've got an area for you to pick up. So the consumer doesn't even have to enter the building. We have parking for those types of all the eats and all of those types of delivery services, as well as parking spaces for our customer. You'll notice there's a door along the front, and that will not be a consumer door. That will be a door that the Wendy's employee can take food out to possibly a consumer that didn't get their food in the drive-thru. There'll be a space in the drive-thru that employee can take the food to that consumer, and we always hope to get the food when you're right at the drive-thru window, but as we know, special order sometimes takes more time. Let's see what the second elevation. The second elevation kind of shows you the double door entrance on the side of the building, and so that will be the main entrance for the dine-in consumer that can enter the Wendy's building. We are expecting the entire building will have this Nichi-Ha fiber cement board material. It's in different colors, but it should meet your overlay requirements. But I brought you a sample so you can kind of see how this wood grain looks. It's very durable. And we have built several stores throughout the country, and the franchisees seem to like that product. It comes in big sheets, and the contractors, it's a little easier to install than brick. But the consumer, it seems to hit the new look that the consumer's looking for as well. That last page that shows the delivery, that kind of shows you a little bit closer this double window. You can see the double window, that they'll actually be able to open that window. It's the last color sheet. And so that kind of explains why the front parking is so important for this type building. So the variances that we are asking for relief for, if you can pull out your site plan, we have pulled the actual entire site away from the residential owner. We will still maintain, per code, your landscape strips. We'll put the privacy fence that we had noted before. We've met with those neighbors, and they're very happy about us installing the fence. I do not have an updated landscape plan to reflect tonight, as we have just started redesigning the full set. But be assured, we will meet your city code on that, and we'll do the landscape strip buffer. So the variances we are asking for, if you're looking at the site, to the front of our building, to the right-of-way along McCarter, we are asking 69.7 feet there. And then if you look at the northern property line to the building, we're asking for 67.48 feet there. And we're asking for you to allow us to put parking spaces in front of our building. The plan that you approved in July actually had more parking along that front, but we have reduced it. But we still feel like those parking spaces are very vital to allow that customer to get up to the front of the building and take that food out of the window option. So those are our three variances. What we've decided to do, as we all have probably been hearing, is that construction costs have just skyrocketed with the pandemic. And what we've determined, we were going to do an above-ground pond that typically is the route you go. It tends to be cheaper than underground. Well, the cost for the concrete and the cost to locate someone who can even install a concrete wall these days, the numbers just went over the top. So the side of the building that's the south side of the property is the natural low part of the property. That's the way the stormwater will just naturally drain. So we're going to design everything underground kind of on that south side of the building. So we picked up the entire site and shifted it south. We had originally had it further north to put in a detention pond. So that's why we have a totally different site layout, where those are the items that we took into account. So do you have any questions? Happy to answer anything.
Or do you have any questions?
So instead of having the retaining pond, you're gonna have the water reserved underneath?
It's gonna be it'll be under the parking lot. Yes. And we have already met with South Carolina DOT, and so what they want us to do is line up the drive with the McDonald's drive. So as you can see, we've located, so that location of that drive is pretty set, and they will allow us to access onto Nash Street as well. So that's that site plan that we presented originally, I believe that is how we had presented it previously. So those locations are set.
I think we had a conversation about where employees would park.
Right.
Is that on the very back?
Typically, that's what we'd like to do, exactly. Just as a just throughout the industry. You want to give the parking spaces for the employees, really that 33 through 45 that are furthest from the building. We have it lighted so they should feel safe, but we like to have them park further from the building so that, you know, your customer that's trying to get in and out, they've got the good parking spaces.
So you have 3 exits from the location.
3 X's. Oh, yeah, with yes, are you talking about the interparcel access?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we do have an agreement, with the property to the south of us. We do already, that exists, and we've worked with that developer, but, we, have an agreement in place to have interparcel access. So that will happen. That has, been recorded, and that's an official agreement between the 2 property owners.
I do have a question, and this might sound, I'm not sure. I see where you have the sidewalk and the one entrance, and then you have a sidewalk on the front entrance in a little bit. But around the other property, it's on that corner, there's no way to connect if you wanted to walk.
Are you talking about at the exit on Nash Street?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going down McCarter Road and then connecting with Nash
Right.
Street. It can't go around the other property.
Right. Okay, well, by law, we can only put the sidewalk that fronts our property onto the right-of-way.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's what I thought. That's what I
Exactly.
thought.
Now, and also, we are by law required to provide ADA access to one of the sidewalks. So that's why you see on McCarter, that, grade-wise, we're able to make that work to take it to the front of the building.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Regarding them? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys for hearing us.
Ms. Reed?
Thank you, good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Naomi Reed, the Assistant Administrator with the City of Fountain Inn. I am currently acting as Interim Planning and Development Director, following Greg's departure. So we've consulted with Mr. John Gardner, who will provide the staff report for tonight and be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gardner?
Thank you. And I won't spend a lot of time going over what's in your packet. I'll just hit the high spots. As the applicants noted, they're applying for variances on building setbacks on the front and side. Those setbacks in the Gateway Corridor Overlay District really make it impossible for a drive-through business to operate, because if you set back between 10 and 20 feet, you're not gonna have room for circulation around the building. So those had been varied before, they're coming back to you because they've adjusted them again. Parking, there is some parking on the street frontage, not immediately in front of the building. I think the renderings show some, restaurants where there are parking spaces immediately adjacent to the building, and that's what's really not permitted in the district. And there are some spaces on the other side of the driveway, along the front right-of-way of McCarter Road. Very similar to what was permitted with the McDonald's across the street. So it's just sort of the nature of these types of businesses that it's gonna be hard to make them completely conform to what the overlay district required on setbacks and parking. You've got the renderings in your packet from the applicant that are not quite as detailed as what they brought tonight. I'm not going to read through all the purpose of the Gateway Corridor Overlay District. I've kind of summarized it, but it was to try to create a more pedestrian and feel, more of a small town feel, and to reflect some of the features, architectural features and walkability features of the downtown here. So the key thing I think that they're asking for here is the variance on materials. The ordinance calls for natural materials, brick, stone, stucco, similar things. So I think the question for you is to decide if what they propose meets the intent of the district. The McDonald's across the street is a brick and stone and complies with what the specifics of the Corridor Overlay District call for in building materials. So what's proposed is a cementitious board. I haven't actually seen a sample. I would actually like to see one. So the ordinance does allow wood as a material if you approve it, or something that's similar. So that's sort of what you're being asked to do there. And the other materials are, I don't know if we have a sample of those.
It is all will be different colors, but it's made of that same Nichi-Ha-like material.
So smooth.
But it will be
cementitious
smooth
material.
versus that looking like a wood grain, correct?
Right, so it's smooth in a black or gray or red or.
Dark
gray or
bronze
various
and
colors.
red, yeah, correct.
So those are materials, you know.
Well, may I ask a question? What's the difference in the material you have now than what you had before? I was talking to putting on it before.
They had not requested a variance on materials before. On the materials or the elevations.
Well, why do they need a variance for that?
Excuse me?
Why do they need a variance for that?
The Gateway Corridor Overlay District specifically
Required.
says, is spelled out in the staff
Okay.
report, but specifically calls for, natural stone, brick, stucco,
I remember you
those
saying that,
types
yeah.
of finished materials. So they're proposing something, just, and I could read the specifics if I can put my
No, that's
finger
okay.
It's on page 5 of 16.
on it.
Yeah, wood or a synthetic.
Synthetic material grossly resembling.
Right, so it's
outright.
really your judgment as to whether what they propose meets the intent of the overlay. And as the report notes, we believe that we could, that they could meet the full letter of the ordinance if you choose to not approve this material, which obviously is a synthetic material that is up to your judgment to determine if it closely resembles the required materials.
Could you, review the variance piece as well, as far as, the elevations? The elevations that they're asking for variances for?
Right. The ordinance specifically calls for 40% of the building face to be windows, doors, or other embellishments, is the language in the ordinance. And so that might be some other decorative feature. You know, the McDonald's, if you look at it, you would have to determine that the natural stone is considered an embellishment that meets the requirements of the ordinance, because I don't believe they have 40% windows and doors on the facade of the building facing the street. But they do have a really nice, natural, light-colored stone veneer on the face of the building, so.
What material is the gray that's on like the left side and right side? Is that the same material but just a different color?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because those are really big pieces and the others were just,
Like,
Yeah, the others
Yeah.
would be stripped like wood.
okay. It has a very modern look. Don't y'all agree?
Okay. All right. Are you finished with your report, sir?
Unless you have questions, I'd be glad to address anything else, but
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Garden? Okay, any discussion regarding the request? We want to go one by one?
No.
Okay. Donna, do you have any questions?
Yeah, let me ask you,
What is that?
are we
Sorry.
voting separate?
Well, I think that there's 4 different variances that
Okay.
we should consider them
Yeah.
individually, yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just looking at the page of staff recommendations and just
Yeah.
wanted to glance at those for just a minute. So,
Yes, please.
okay. So it looks like the staff that has looked at all this has approved, gone through approve.
Well, they've recommended.
Right, recommend
yes.
approval, but then there's one that says recommend denial, and I'm not sure what that,
Well, I think, let's go, I think we
Okay.
need to start, for the first request, and that's the setback for the the front setbacks and the side setbacks. So our setbacks are a minimum of 10 feet, not to exceed 20 feet. And the side setback should be a minimum of 5 feet, not to exceed 64 feet on one side and 12 feet on the other. So have moved their building and, to allow that front parking, then they need the setback. So, do we have a motion that we approve the variance for the request for front and side setbacks?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. All in favor of approval of the variance request for the front and side setbacks, please say, raise your hand. Okay. All opposed, no. All right. For the second request, this is regards to variance for parking along the frontage of the McCarter Road. So they're asking for a variance from our rule of no parking area shall be located along frontage road or otherwise between buildings in the road. So obviously, they're fast food, they need some parking in the front, and there's parking at the McDonald's
They
across the
have it too
street.
at McDonald's, correct?
Yes, so, do I have a motion that we approve the variance for parking along the lot frontage?
So moved.
Okay, and a
A
second?
second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. The third request is, for the exterior finish materials. So, it says that the exterior finish material shall be limited to brick, stone, natural stone, stucco, and/or, if approved by the city, wood or a synthetic material resembling outright approved materials. So, looking at this, and from the discussion and the explanation, that some of those pieces would be big and smooth, and the other pieces would have texture, or they all would be smooth. Does this synthetic material closely resemble the approved materials and do, if we think that they do, we can, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling. If they think that if they do, then we need to vote on that. But we need to know whether or not we'll give the approval for the exterior finished materials. As pointed out, there's been use of natural stone at the McDonald's that has met, and the brick at McDonald's has met that criteria. So do I have a motion that we approve the request for variance for the exterior finished materials, or,
Well, I guess I'm reading this paragraph, where the staff mentions that they will work with the applicant. It does not seem to be a difficult requirement to comply. Larger windows, additional door.
well, that's the elevation, the
The
one above.
elevation?
Yeah, the one above it is the exterior
Okay.
finished materials.
I move that we approve it, the recommendations for the exterior finish.
Okay. Do I have a second on that? Okay, we have a motion to approve the exterior finish, variance for exterior finish materials. Do we have any discussion with it? I'm probably all out of rules of order, I'm sorry.
Yes, okay.
So, all in favor of approving that variance, please raise your hand. Okay, and then the last request is a variance for the front elevations. With that variance, it goes back to the 40% of embellishment. My concern is, I like the little drive-through window, but we can achieve more compliance, I think, on that one.
I'm
Did-
sorry, let me ask you a question. Did you say that the McDonald's across the street met the 40% requirement?
The only way you could really determine they meet the 40% requirement is if you decide that the, variation in the facade created by the stone that they used, they don't have 40% window openings or
Okay.
doors, I don't believe. I didn't have a
That's what I was thinking.
rendering, but it does not appear that they do. One item here that you might consider, there is a patio, outdoor seating area proposed in
Yes,
front, so that may have some limitation on flexibility of how, if they include that, which may be a very desirable feature, may be hard to make a lot of adjustments in the rest of it.
Yes, you may.
There
approach.
will be a patio addition onto the front of the building.
On the front?
Yes, on the front area. So that front sidewalk area you see will have a patio seating, covered patio seating.
So if
So
you choose-
in this rendering where the
So in that
handicap
rendering, there has
parking
been an
is, that
update.
would be the patio?
Yeah, there's
Those
been
cars, that would be a patio.
there would be, yes, there would be a patio there from that render.
You could interpret that to meet the intent of the 40%.
But that is not on this,
It is not,
Colored
it
paper.
is not on that color paper.
it's on the
Sorry.
the
That's
sheet
on
here,
here.
design, the drawing.
I believe it is, yes.
So a second question would be, how would people access the patio? They have to go around the building, since you don't have a door in the front?
There will be, there is a There is the side entrance, they do have a sidewalk area that leads to the patio.
When you look at the patio from the front elevation, it appears enclosed, you know, and there's slats, there's openings in the slats of how it's, it has some covering for the customer. But just rear of that patio is totally open, and it's a 5-foot sidewalk. So you could access that patio area very easily. It's like a 3-sided, covering. And it's, how do we
There-
describe how the patio looks to let them?
It would be a covered patio. So you do have some little lattice work or
Right,
whatever
it's-
around it.
And it's that dark brown color.
But the
It's-
sides will be open air,
That'll be,
the three sides.
Right,
Yes.
the side that faces the building, that's where you would open and enter very easily into the patio.
So the cars that are parked there on the signs that say delivery, those are not gonna, that's
those will
gonna be
not, those will not be there. They will, be
Right.
the delivery, parking spots will be at that main front
Okay.
entrance. So you'll see parking spots number, I believe, 1, 2, and 3 will be associated with those.
So the rendering in your packet, not the one that they handed out here, but the other one does show the patio elevation.
Oh, okay.
So you can get a sense. It's a little clearer on the second sheet. There are the side elevations. You can see the side of the patio and the access points. It's a little harder to read it on the bottom of the first sheet. That's the front elevation. Right below the Wendy's is where the patio would be.
The second sheet is accurate?
Well, it'll be, can I kind of show you, it's like
Okay.
the side, it'd be okay if I show you? Okay. It's right here on the building elevation. You can see the side, the way it looks. You can see on the side, it's like slats.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it
I see it
kind
now.
of, gives you that covered feeling. And this is on the main entrance side, so there's a little more breeze coming in on that side. But you can walk anywhere along the front of the building to get into that patio. And then this elevation kind of shows it, it's a little hard to see on the front
Oh, I see it
elevation,
now.
but you can kind of see the brown slats. It's
Oh,
got
yeah, I
the-
can
okay,
see it.
kinda- That kind of orients you with it, with the brown
Right.
slats that kind of, and that's the patio.
That just wasn't clear at all, looking at the,
Well,
The big
I
pictures, I'm
apologize.
sorry.
Yeah, we've got the
Yeah.
renderings from corporate, and, I apologize, the patio is an option, and so the elevation they provide us just didn't show the patio.
and the drive-through, is that an entrance off of both? Off of Nash and off of 418 to come into the property?
I think if you came in from Nash Street, you would have to circle
Yeah.
around the building to reach the
To get
drive-through,
back.
because the drive-through speaker would be where you couldn't turn
Right.
around
I'm
to get
familiar
to.
with some places are like that, yes.
Yeah.
So the crew door and the pickup window are just like they are, but the patio would extend out on that right side of the building where the windows are now.
Kind of
Correct.
underneath the Wendy's, a sign that is on the elevation, yeah, kind of on that
So
side.
anyone would come out the side door. Is that the only entrance and exit to go in and out of that building?
For
I-
the patron, yes.
Is that acceptable? One entrance and exit?
Front door is just for
Well,
the exit.
I was
from the
just sitting here thinking about, some of them are like that though. There are restaurants like that. I think if you go in McDonald's, does that have doesn't it just have one way in and out?
Well, they usually have one
The
over on
chicken
the.
place, what's it called?
Zaxby.
Who?
Zaxby.
Oh, God, I love Zaxby's,
Um,
can't remember the name. That only has, from my understanding, one way in and out, I think.
Which one's that?
Zaxby's?
Oh, yes.
I think you
yes.
can only go in one
Yes.
and out.
McDonald's has two though,
Cause you don't wanna go out in front of the,
drive.
drive-through where people
Yeah.
are driving, and that would be dangerous.
Right, yeah, that door that's on the front of the Wendy's building now. The way they're doing the kitchen is on, the side of the building. You know, when you enter Wendy's now, it's in the back of the building, right, when you come in? So they're gonna do it on the side. So that door is really for just the Wendy's employee.
Okay.
And the goal was safety. They were really trying to get just one enter-exit, for the patron, as well as just, as safer for the Wendy's employee.
There was
Oh,
also
yeah.
safety concerns
Yeah.
for the customers with employees walking through the dining room to take out food to guests that have been pulled forward with, you know, possible grease on their shoes and things like that. So they thought if we added a door that they could go out of themselves, they would not be tracking through and possibly creating a
So the
safety hazard
kitchen
for customers.
is close to that crew door. It's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
so
It's
the
gonna be
cut-
long on that
Yeah.
one wall
Alright.
now.
The
So
kitchen's
that-
elongated instead of front and back of house. It's kind of one side versus
Kind
the
of
other side.
on the drive-through side, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you walk through these two double doors, I know some of the restaurants, you go in and then you're in a covered area, then you actually go into the restaurant. Does this
Yes.
go immediately in?
I believe there is a vestibule here,
Okay.
so you do have an entryway. We found that seems to be, extremely beneficial for,
I see, I don't
That's-
think we did.
oh,
it.
you didn't do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, beneficial for things like flies and for customers, because I don't know if you've ever sat in a restaurant and someone opens the door holding the
air
door
comes in?
open because the line's out the door and all of a sudden you're getting blown on. So-
Right, I like
so-
when it has that little enclosure when
Yeah.
you first come in.
Yeah, so it does have that, and I think you come in one side, and people that are leaving kind of come out another door on that way. I have a smaller rendering, on my phone, but I don't know if that would help. I can show you that, if you'd like to see that.
I hate to be repetitive, but when you go in the entrance, the main double door entrance, you can go to the left and go out to the patio?
No,
not
not
from
from
the
the,
inside.
not from the side entrance of the building. You would come out and then there
Have to
is a
go
side,
around.
there is a sidewalk that
Yeah.
does lead to there. If code did require, they would add another door probably at that front area.
I don't think.
But I
any of
don't,
them
but I
have
don't
that.
think it was required based off of the code, from the latest renderings from the architect.
Sound like it'd be safety.
Well, this footprint is just a little bit smaller building, and, just overall, so it really, you're right, I think it's because we're under the life safety code. You know, we'd add the door if we had to.
It looks like there's a little covered area over that main entrance door. Is that
Yes,
right?
there,
Am I
yes,
looking-
there is a,
Rain or
there
whatever,
is
yeah.
something for rain and stuff like that. yes.
So in regards to our obligation for the fourth request for a variance for the front elevations, with this understanding that the patio, the rendering of the patio, I have a question for the city in regards to the interpretation of the 40% embellishment. Does a patio count? Because doesn't Starbucks have a patio on the front?
I don't know of another one that has a patio like, a covered patio like that on the front.
There's one at McDonald's, but it's not covered, is it? Just open.
Yes.
It's open, but that's part of the, okay. Well. Do I have anybody do we need more discussion about this? Do we need more feedback from the planning department regarding this? Do we need to, I'm asking my board.
I think it needs to be refined a little.
Okay. So a motion to approve the variance request.
I second it. Oh,
I said, do we have,
Oh.
sorry.
I will do the motion.
Okay,
Someone wants to second it.
I'll second it, and then all who are in favor of approving this variance, raise your hand.
Is this with the oversight? No?
It's as presented.
I'm sorry,
It's as presented.
okay.
So those who approve it as presented today, show by raising your hand. Okay. Those who do not approve it as presented today, okay. So we are
So,
split on
right.
that, so that denies that particular variance, correct?
John, I'm not familiar, I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry.
We apologize for our lack of knowledge on the procedures of how this goes. I agree, I think, I like the idea with the safety and all that and the patio, but I don't know, if there's a way that needs to be adjusted a little bit as Cliff has pointed out, so.
You mean for the exterior
For the,
finish or
for the
the
approval
window?
of the front elevations. Because going back to your particular question on 14, page 14.
Right, which and the city, you spoke on that, but, and it's in print here. If I'm reading this right, the city isn't in agreement with this and is suggesting denial of this. Am I reading that correctly?
Whatever it is.
Thought we could meet the 40% embellishment more effectively by working with the applicant
Okay.
and not have to necessarily bring it back for a variance, just reach a reasonable compromise on something that provides a little more, either more
More open space with another window?
openings or more embellishment of some sort on the front. I think it's something
Okay.
we could do.
So,
Could we modify that?
Roll it, take it back. Okay. We have a request from the board to bring back into motion, I bring back into motion the previous motion, that we accept the variance for the front elevations. So it was, after discussion, we have had conditions. Are we adding conditions, board?
I would, my motion would be to pass it back to the city to work out the details of not necessarily the 40%, but the safety factor and some of the things we've talked about.
Okay, well, we've done that with,
Yeah,
okay. The board recommends, the board recommends to the city to work on the few details in regards to that last variance request. At this point, it is denied, well, because it was a split vote, so by default, but to work with that, and I think that will be fine for the board. All right? Are there any other discussions or concerns?
we voted on it, didn't we?
So-
You have to vote again.
Vote again.
I gotta vote again,
Yeah.
okay. I don't have a motion on the board. Have you made the motion?
My motion, yes.
Made a motion, I'll second that. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. So we agree to have further, you guys to do your thing. Okay,
We defer
thank you
to
so
the
much.
city.
We defer to the city.
Yeah.
All right, if there's any more, if I can murder all of Robert's rules any worse, please let me know.
You have been great as the fill in here.
Did good.
So,
Better know what I'm doing.
meeting is adjourned, thank you.